Hi everybody. I want to thank a guy with nickname rizka10 from lichess for suggesting this position for me to show you. I've seen it previously, but for some reason didn't consider putting it on my channel, but it fits into the topic of my channel. So actually I want to show you two positions, this one, and so I'm gonna start Stockfish 10, the newest version of Stockfish. So you can see the evaluation. It is plus 5.14 for white. All the lines are similar, depth 77. And the next position is frankly extremely similar to the previous one, right? It's just minor differences. So this is an interesting topic about computers evaluation. In my next video I'm planning to show other examples where the engine, specifically Stockfish, is wrong or misleading in its evaluations. So here, if you trust Stockfish, you would probably prefer to play this position, plus 5.71, and in previous one plus 5, it was 14, now it's 24, 5.24. So I suggest that you stop the video and consider two positions and maybe find difference between them. So one of them is winning and one of them is a draw. So let's move on. Let's take a look at this position, and then the other one would be simpler to comprehend after this one. So there's a pawn chain, right? White's king cannot get in. So and black has zero counterplay, right? Black is just standing. So this way of thinking that I'm about to suggest is very useful in a regular game as well. If your opponent has virtually no counterplay, you can think in the following manner. So what can I do? Like sacrificing the knight never works. You know, the passed pawn would be useless. So where this knight can go? The king is hopeless, right? Where this knight can go? Let's see, it's on c1, e2, g1, h3 with the threat to capture, right? Black can of course anticipate that one. So as long as the king is within this square, black would be fine, and it's not hard to do. So let's see where else can knight go. Oh, okay, finally Stockfish start to realize that there are some chances. So, but this is the way you should be thinking. Now I am playing, he is doing nothing. So knight f2, knight d1, knight b2, knight a4. Ah, that seemed like a success, right? Attack the pawn. So black would obviously put the king to c6 to prevent knight from coming in. But we always have a useful move. Well, not useful. We can always pass the move to black. So black would have to go to d6, right? So this is the position we already can imagine. Let's removing all the arrows. So our knight is on a4 and black's king is on d6. We can easily achieve that within seconds, right? So what do we do next? Well, we penetrate with the knight, right? We penetrate with the knight. He would attack us maybe like this, and we can come to d5. Ah, that's an improvement, right? So we can already remove all the arrows. We can reach d5, because if the king stays on c6, we just make a waiting move as the king. So we reach the d5 square. That's great. From d5, we can go like this. If knight appears on f5, that's game over, because black would have to put his king on h7 and will have no waiting moves, right? Once we eat this pawn, the game would be over. So I'm gonna turn off the engine for a second. So, because we don't need it at the moment. So the knight cannot go to f5, so, well, black shouldn't let him go there. So black should prevent our knight from coming to e7, right? Right. So, but what if our knight comes to f6? And not being captured? We would be threatening knight g8 as well as knight d7, right? I'm gonna remove all these arrows. So if knight comes to f6, black can resign. There's no place for the king to be to cover these two squares, right? So we will eat either of the pawns for sure. So removing again all the arrows, the knight is here. Black cannot let us get to these squares. Good. He has two squares to achieve that, and he can just go back and forth, so waiting wouldn't work. So there's no waiting move as a king, black is just standing, so obviously we have to go to the left, right? But where can we go? We can go to b6 and attack this pawn, but it wouldn't help. Even if the king is on f7, let's assume we went to b6 and the king is there. He's exactly in time to catch up with the pawn. King e7, knight a4 and king d6, and we're back to where we started, right? So this doesn't work. So our knight is here and king is here or there. But now there's a brilliant idea of how to win this position. We have to come back with the knight into our side of the board. This looks ridiculous, but that's true. So how can we, but not through a4. This is what we're going to do. Knight c7, he cannot stop us, he's on e6 or f7, right? Then knight goes to b5, and then knight comes back to a3. Why would we do that? Well, first of all, if black captures, this is always win. Our king will just eat the pawn, and we would push b4. So no, well, I'm assuming the king is somewhere here. So we always have time to do that. So knight comes to a3, but where is it going? Where is it going? The idea is brilliant. We still want to reach f5, but through our side from h4. How can we do that? And this is how it's done. This is how it's done. So let me show you the whole line again. Now I'm going to turn on the engine again. I wonder at which point it would realize the winning mechanism. So king c2. I'm going to press space for black moves. Knight c1, space, knight e2, space, knight g1, space, knight h3, king is in the square, so nothing is happening there. Knight f2, space, knight d1, still +5. It's not jumping, still the engine doesn't see it. Knight b2, space, knight a4, king c6, only move. Now we make a waiting, nope. Now we make a waiting move with the king. He has to go to d6. We need this a3 square. Still doesn't see. Okay, +6, but king a1. So king c1. I don't know why. It improved the evaluation because knight is good, well placed, but still not a win. King e6, knight d5, king f7, only move. And now it says king c2. That doesn't make any sense. Or knight b6. It's only knight c7, king e7. To protect the pawn, but we don't go to a6 because there our knight will be lost, well, or perpetual, so that's wrong. It's knight b5, king moves, knight a3, capture obviously loses, he's waiting, and now we go to the key square. Well, we cannot go there when the king, we need the king, we come with the king. Now the engine realized it's +13, that this is winning. So this is what engine is not capable of. It's not capable of thinking, planning things significantly in advance. So for human it's easier because we know that our opponent's not going to do anything, and then we just go eat the pawns, and this is a win. So this is the engine where the engine was wrong. It has a man-made system of how to evaluate the position. So why is it evaluating the second position higher than this one? My assumption is that white has less space here, +5.08, and in the next one 5.5. But in this case there is no win. Because, the king again cannot get in. The only thing white can do is similar. Knight is going to a5, black is going to c7. We make a waiting move with the king. Black goes to d7, knight b7. Black is waiting, knight d6, and black is waiting on similar squares. So I'm going to remove the arrows. We can reach d6, but black's going to be standing back and forth, and the knight cannot get inside to the king side. The only thing knight can do is attack this pawn when black's king is always in time. So this is a fortress. Knight can reach d6, but nothing is happening, and knight b5, c takes b5, king is in the square of the c5 pawn. So there's no win here, but there is a win in previous one. So you should use your judgment, your thinking, and that one is a brilliant puzzle. The difference is there is a weak pawn on h6. If in previous puzzle, I think if we remove the pawns like this, that one could be a draw. I think it would be a draw, yeah. G5 pawn is hardly attackable. So the weak pawn on h6 is an issue, and knight reaches f5 square after God knows how many moves. But the engine cannot see it. If you let it wait long enough for depths like 80 something, it would increase the evaluation and find. But if you give it seconds or even a minute or two, it will not figure it out. But for human, it is not that hard, because we know that black is doing nothing. So we just say, okay, my knight is on a4, then okay, my knight is on d5, and then okay, his king is there, my knight can go where, and once you realize that if you reach, well, it would be easier if knight could reach h4 from our side, right? If knight was on a1, that would be an easy win. Knight just goes like this, right? But the knight is misplaced, so we have to get inside his position and then come back. So I like this puzzle a lot, and it also another example where, well, where human as a species is still better than engines. I wonder if AlphaZero could get this one, but I do not have access to it. Alright, I hope you enjoyed it. In my next video I'll planning to discuss the evaluation of engines and how misleading it could be for practical purposes, like openings. So because this is like a little bit exaggerated example, but still a valid one. Take care. See you in a week.